Welcome to this edition of Playfully Orange. My guest today is Ray Jimenez. Welcome, Ray.
Thank you for having me.
Ray, let's find out a little bit about you. What is your background? What's your
Uh,
heritage?
my heritage, I'm part Puerto Rican, part Filipino. So I have a
And,
split. My mother is Filipino, my father's Puerto Rican. My father was mostly from New York. My grandmother was born in Puerto Rico. So I guess I would be second generation, I guess I'd be considered. My mom was born in Manila, the Philippines. So I'd be first generation on that side to a degree. So that would be my heritage.
did you grow up in New York?
No, I was born in Staten Island, but I've lived most of my life in Florida. So at this point, I'm pretty much Floridian. It's just a, a thing that happened. Like I was born in New York. I've lived here most of my life, most of my memories. I have very few memories of any of New York. Florida, sunshine, um, sun showers are like some of my first memories. So Florida is pretty much everything I've known.
Well, Central Florida today has a lot of folks from Puerto Rican heritage. Did you grow up in a kind of Puerto Rican heritage situation?
Uh, I've had mixed like experiences. Some cousins, more cousins on my mom's side were Philippine that moved with us. Aunts and uncles from Puerto Rico that were here. Um, not many kids when I was growing up. It was a smaller town, Deltona. Um, had some Puerto Rican heritage that was there, but not a lot. So my exposure to my culture is generally from my parents directly. My dad's understanding of culture and my mom's understanding of culture.
And did that influence you when you were in school, and or were you just one of the kids?
Um, it does influence it. It's there. There's an understanding that you're not like. There's always kind of like a what are you exactly? Are you? Because I can't quite pin down your ethnicity. So what like do you fit into? Um, so that was always kind of there.
And
I
how
think
did that make you feel? Was that
I've kind of always embraced the idea that I'm not necessarily like everyone else. And I've learned to be okay with that. But there are places where I can call home. There are things that I recognize in other people, and you can find things that you recognize in different people if you try hard enough. You can find different aspects of culture that you can agree with, um, and different common ground that you can find. So I try not to let get to you too much. And it is what it is. People either don't like. Most people have no idea about Philippine culture in general, and I don't get too insulted about that. Um, when I told them that they're Puerto Rican, they have a general idea, but not quite specific. Like, so it's like, oh, most people are just looking for a way to like understand and relate to you, and to recognize things. People have a tendency to want to understand patterns. And so, all right, you're Puerto Rican specifically. Okay, I understand that. You're Latino. Okay, I kind of understand that. So yeah, I'm trying not to take it too personally.
it's easy to label things, then you don't have to experience it.
Yeah, you don't have any
Um,
other. You're off the hook for the rest of the work. You have to understand. Like, no, it's fine. Puerto Rican. Like once you have that label for a person, it's not necessarily to do something bad to a person. It's just that like you want the world to make sense, and so labels are there to help you make sense. But the downside of labels is that you no longer try and experience what it is that the uniqueness of that thing. That label is limiting to a degree, and so that's why we sometimes fight them, and sometimes we fight for them in a weird way. Because a label also gives you kind of an identity that people expect and respect sometimes. So it's a catch-22 kind of thing. It comes with good and bad. So
if you could create your own Ray Jimenez label, what would it be?
uh, I could create my own label. I think I think that's what being an artist is about, is creating your own label, is creating your own, restructuring your identity, understanding the things that are passionate about Puerto Rican culture, things that are unique about Philippine culture that are mine. I think culture in general is something that you define for yourself. So every day I try to live, I guess, a label for myself, to defy stereotypes of Puerto Rican culture. We have to be loud. We have to be a specific way. There has to be machismo. I tend to defy that in general. But those are labels that get put on Puerto Ricans a lot. There are certain stereotypes for Asian culture. I would like to, whenever my label is what I decide to choose at the given moment, what makes sense to me, and not having to respond, well, that's not what you should be doing. Like, no, this is what I want to do. This is who I am. So yeah.
You don't want to be called a Flora Rican?
A Philo Rican or a Puerto Pino, I think, are the standard ones. They're fun to say, so I'm not against that. And they're a starting point for everyone. So it's a good starting point, as long as it's not the ending point for everything. Like, because no one's a stereotype. Like, as much as you like might think it is, people are unique and all have depth to them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I know the Philippine community in Central Florida does get together for like Florida Philippine Independence Day. Did your family engage in any of those kind of bigger Philippine community events?
Our events are very specific to our family. We don't. My family is a bunch of homebodies. They don't go and do like they go for family. They go for graduation ceremonies. They go for specific individual achievements. When it comes to reaching out to culture, my family, my immediate family, my mother and my father are very, very comfortable staying at home, watching on television, and being supportive that way. They're supportive through the like what they donate to. But as far as like home, they do not go out. I don't ask them. I've stopped asking them at this point. They don't like commuting. They are who they are. I love them for that. As far as understanding our culture, it tends to be through like music, food that we share with family whenever we have family gatherings. And we don't have them enough. We've been trying to have family gathering now, I think, for a little while. We're gonna have like a family reunion with my mom's side. But things happen with family. Sometimes they drift and they don't necessarily keep in touch and life happens. So we're gonna try to reinforce that hopefully in the coming year, I think. So.
And you mentioned the arts early on. What arts are you engaged in?
I'm engaged in a variety of arts. I'm a physical artist. I did ceramics, sculpture, everything with clay. I am a poet, actually, also. I am part of Orlando Poetry Slam. We do poetry events in and around Orlando. Poetry Slam is the one opportunity I do have to be loud. For the most part, I am very, very calm in general and very low key, soft spoken.
So are you saying that your Puerto Rican side comes out in poetry slams?
A little bit, I'll say that. Like, there's a little credit. I won't say it's entirely, but yeah, a little bit. I have that opportunity to be passionate and show that type of immediacy in art, as I always like to say, because there's like visual art, something that you do once and then it gets repeated, like you have it permanently. Whereas a spoken word is designed to be said once, and then like everyone who experienced it at one time and never happens again the same way. So those are two aspects of artistic aesthetic that I like engaging in and experiencing. But yeah, like when I do physical art, there's a more contemplative side of like culture that I investigate, visual elements of both my Puerto Rican and Philippine side. When it's the spoken word, it's a different aspect of either culture. How you use words, the emotions, the feelings, the experiences that I've had with each culture are what come out in general. So that answers that question.
Sure. And your community around, as you look around Central Florida, which is a very diverse place, where have you maybe bumped into something that's been foreign to you, or been enveloped by something that's new to you?
I mean, because I'm with Fusion Fest, I go to things from time to time, not all the time, but I go to things. The last thing I went to was not experiencing it, was an Indian parade, an Indian festival, and they don't kid around when they come to parades. I didn't realize that's what was happening because we spent 20, 30 minutes preparing for the festival, for the parade, and then we didn't realize that parade, which would go for like an hour, for like only a block, but it would take an hour to go from one end to the other. And like the music was intense, and they were very, very, very serious about partying. I didn't realize it. Like and once they got all their ducks in a row, you party for like a 15-minute increment, gave like a second, and then another 15-minute increment, and they kept like it. And for just one aspect of a parade that only went like one block, that was amazing. That was like I didn't understand. I didn't know that aspect of Indian culture in general was something like that would happen that day. I was very pleasantly surprised, and I will remember that experience always.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your contributions to our community and the diversity that you bring to us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching this edition of Diverse Orange.